Welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, what about this, the impact of COVID-19 on holiday shopping? But first, meet the new, or I should say, the incoming Auditor General of the state of Pennsylvania. As they say, let's get to it.
Welcome to the fast-paced and unrehearsed weekly discussion featuring the leaders who help shape your world. Join us as we address the issues that impact you each and every day. This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Well, we have three statewide row officers, Auditor General, Attorney General, and State Treasurer. The Republicans won two of those offices. One of the Republicans is sitting across the table from me. He's the new Auditor General of the state of Pennsylvania, Tim DeFoor. And I want to tell you something. He's been a Dauphin County Controller. He was a special agent with the Attorney General's office. You've had a variety of professions, I should say, or occupations, yes, right?
Absolutely, and it's all led to this. I mean, one of the things that I've been pretty consistent with is what I've done in my career, and it's always been auditing and investigating allegations of fraud, waste, and abuse in government, and also fraud, waste, and abuse with others dealing with government funds.
Now, I'm going to leave this alone, but I may have to come back to it when you're on in the future. You do realize that you're in a position where many of the folks who've held it have run for what?
Other offices.
Including the big governor, right?
Yes.
I won't push you on that one, okay? You still have to take the oath of office.
Right, exactly.
All right, well, let's get down to some serious business. All right, number one, why did you decide to run?
A commitment and a moral obligation to the people of this Commonwealth who've treated me so well. As I stated earlier, I've spent my entire 30-year career auditing and investigating government fraud, waste, and abuse with the Inspector General's office, Attorney General's office in the private sector, and also with Dauphin County. And I just felt that it's something that I needed to do because I feel that somebody with experience, and in this election, experience matters. Somebody
Sure.
with experience needed to be in that position.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention that. I mean, a lot of Auditor Generals come from a variety of backgrounds. Not everyone has the kind of background. I mean, this has been your life, correct, in a sense, as a controller, auditing, looking at the books, figuring out the numbers, correct?
Correct. And and as far as with politics, I kind of ask myself, how did they get here? I mean, there are times when people find politics, but then there's other times when politics finds people. And in this case, it happened to find me. I had no ambitions and no dreams of ever getting involved with politics. It just kind of happened this way, and I'm glad that it did. Glad that it did.
Well, let me start with this. During the course of the campaign, you made COVID-19 a huge issue, and look, in poll after poll throughout this election year, COVID-19 emerged as the most significant problem, not just obviously nationally, but in the state of Pennsylvania as well, in the polls that have been done. Nothing was even close to it. And you made that a significant issue during the course of your campaign. What did you say, and what should be done? I know some of it has to do with the distribution of funds.
Right. It's pretty much as far as the funds that are supposed to go to the businesses, to the individuals who do in fact need those funds. Are those funds actually getting to them? And you could walk down the 2nd Street in Harrisburg. You could go to a local mall. Businesses are shutting down left and right, and these are mostly mom and pop businesses. People who have spent their entire life saving to open up a business. And if these funds were to go to those individuals to keep their businesses open, but also to keep a roof over their head, it would be my responsibility as Auditor General to make sure that they got those funds. Yeah,
we're going to run to a break. When we come back, I want to talk about what should be done in terms of these funds, continued improvement on it, but I also want to ask you a significant question, I think, and that is, Republicans and Democrats haven't been on the same page about opening up the economy. I'm not saying that it looks like D's and R's are moving closer, But all right, we'll get to that and more after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association and Partners for Public Education, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
I'm chatting with Tim DeFoor. He's the new Auditor General, elect, I guess I should say. You didn't take office yet, but we're delighted to have you. All right. Can Republicans and Democrats get together on the big question of opening up the economy? Republicans, want to make sure there's no shutdown and open it up quicker than Democrats. I'm not getting into right or wrong. I'm just suggesting that it's an issue that Democrats and Republicans have to agree on. As I chat with you right now, Governor Wolf has not made any moves towards a shutdown, while in Philadelphia, for example, they've restaurants, bars, taverns, museums, no enter, take out okay.
But yeah, they're going to have to get together, because if they don't, what's going to happen is nothing. And if nothing happens, then the problem of dealing with the virus isn't going to get any better. The economy isn't going to get any better, and how to deal with schools isn't going to get any better. So they have to come up with a comprehensive plan that may not necessarily be perfect, but it may be the right plan to deal with the current situation. Then as time goes on, build on that plan, but they have to get together to do something. Now is not the time for partisan politics.
Well, what does the Auditor General have to do? I mean, I know you're going to audit the books and the money that's been spent. I guess the CARES Act money, $1 billion, may go to balance the budget, not to finish my thought.
Exactly. Not to deal with some of the other issues, such as the processes. Yeah. And one of the things that I pledged that I would do as I was running for this office was to deal with the processes. The process that we currently have in place, it could be processes that have been in place years ago that aren't necessarily working because of what's happening now, or processes that are being put in place because of COVID-19. Are those processes in fact working? If they're not, then they need to be tweaked, or in some cases, they just need to be completely scrapped. But you have to identify the process, and you constantly have to have continual process improvement in state government.
Now, as Auditor General, your responsibility would be to watch where the money is coming from, and number two, how it's being spent. Do I got that right?
Correct.
And do you work with other agencies?
Yeah, I would have to, absolutely, because one of the things that especially, let's say what's happening now with COVID-19. Right now, there's a boatload of money that's coming in from the federal government, and there's money that's being dished out. And 20% of that that's being dished out may be fraudulent.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I had learned when I was a special agent with the Attorney General's office. So as we identify that, we're going to have to work with the Attorney General's office in referring those fraudulent issues with them. And I spoke to the current Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, a couple weeks ago, and we had talked about that. So once I get into office, or actually prior to beginning in the office, we're going to sit down and discuss some of those cases that their office currently has that were referred to from the Auditor General's office.
All right, before I let you go, what other big issues are you going to tackle?
Nursing homes.
Oh, nursing homes.
Nursing homes. Why is it that, especially in Dauphin County, 90% of the COVID-19 deaths are in nursing homes? That's a huge problem. But also continual process improvement of different departments, different processes. I mean, one of the things that I've always felt that if you don't look at your processes, if you don't have continual process improvement, eventually something is going to break, and when it breaks, it is going to be painful and it's going to be costly to fix it. And I would like to get ahead of that before something like that happens.
Yeah, there are efforts being made to increase the funding and actually, I guess, to deal with the problems that you've been talking about. I think Senators Casey and Toomey have weighed in on that in recent days, and it's obviously a very serious problem. Well, obviously they're elderly, they're people with pre-existing conditions, and go ahead.
And also, and with nursing homes, you see the level of care that are in hospitals, and some of the things that they handle in hospitals. Well, some of that same level of care should also be in nursing homes, because those individuals are also sick. And the reason why they're in nursing homes is because they can't take care of themselves, and others can't take care of them either. So a lot of the same things that are happening in hospitals, in my opinion, needs to be happening in nursing homes as well.
Well, look, I want to thank you for coming in. I have an assignment for you. When you have breaking news, you come on this program.
Absolutely.
And we'll have fun with it. Congratulations again, and the best to you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, the impact of COVID-19 on holiday shopping and more.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Cross-State Credit Union Association. Credit unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, go to ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
All right, as I've been saying, the impact of COVID-19 on holiday spending. Joining me to discuss that is Amey Sgrignoli. She's the CEO of the Belco Community Credit Union. I think I got that right.
You got it. Thank you.
All right, Amey. Well, look, it looks like folks are going to spend more money, not less, this holiday season. And it's a little surprising because a lot of retail stores, limited hours, if they're even open at all, and yet we're going to spend a lot of money. Explain that.
I think that is a little counterintuitive to what we're expecting, but people are looking for something to do to make themselves feel better, to feel more normal. And I think part of that is holiday spending and buying gifts for people.
Yeah, and it looks like in the reports that have come out, they're going to spend an average of what, $1,000 more?
Right. We're actually expecting about a 4% increase in what folks are spending this year compared to 2019. So just last year, more spending.
Now, there's a big difference, if I understand this. A lot more online purchases. Do I have that correct?
Correct.
And shopping has begun earlier than usual. Talk about that.
Right. So the shopping starting earlier, we believe, again, is really because folks are looking for something to focus on that's positive, that makes them feel good. And they're also online shopping because it's a safer way to do it. And we all know that you went to the stores in the last few months and found some empty shelves. So there's probably a good chance you'll find it online if you can't find it in the store.
And there are a lot of discounts. I mean, if you go into a store or you get them in an email, they don't stop flooding you with 50% off, 60% off.
Right.
That's also helping to drive it, correct?
Black Friday's already started. We're getting the text messages, we're getting the promotions and the sales, so deep discounts are available already, even though it's very early yet in the shopping season. Yeah, well, I mentioned that online will dominate. Discuss that a little bit. Well, I think that's the combination of the shopping from home and keeping everybody safe, but also the idea of selection and availability. But there's a new thing this year. You can shop online and pick it up at the store. So that alleviates some of the fears that folks are having around the shipping and delays in shipping and not being able to get their gifts before the holiday. So buy online and pick it up at the store.
Yeah. And at any rate, a lot of young voters, because I think young folks, I should say, you can tell what I do. I want to talk about voters. But the fact is that a lot of millennials and Gen Z, I mean, because of they do so much online, they're leading the way in this. Is that correct?
Exactly. And I think another trend that we're seeing is this idea of influencers, where marketers have picked up on using influencers to capture that market of millennials and Gen Z who are really looking to purchase things based on what they're seeing throughout social media and online with influencers and, celebrities that are purchasing products.
And almost every day we get an invitation to download an app. Mm-hmm. And you download the app, then you can go out and buy. Well, you don't have to go out. You stay in your home and buy something, right?
It also gets you alerts and triggers and all the latest sales and promotions that they're running. So the apps are quite handy for that as well.
All right, we're going to run to a break, but when we come back, I want to talk about consumer debt. Consumer debt, it's rising and it's an important problem, and we'll deal with that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine.
All right, Amy, one of the problems I think right now is, lots of folks are out of work. Their work has been cut back. They're part-time. The fact of the matter is that consumer debt remains a huge problem.
On average, consumers have about $6,300 in credit card debt and household debt. Lower income households, however, have even more, about $10,300 per household. So it's definitely a problem, and it's rising for the lower income tiers.
Yeah, and do you think a lot of it has to do with COVID-19 and the restrictions? And although, as we just talked about, there are a lot of deals, and maybe people are saying, "Hey, let's go buy. We're getting a huge discount here," and then their personal debt is just rising.
Well, we do know that there's a 30 or 40% increase in using plastic cards and credit cards for purchases simply because of COVID-19.
Right.
You're buying a lot more using that card, which can lead to, you don't realize quite how much you're spending.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do you have to say about ways that consumer debt can be controlled? I'll put it that way.
Well, a great way to do it is really to establish a budget. We say this often when we're talking about these things, but just taking the pen to paper and writing down what is it that I'm spending my money on. And it's very eye-opening to be able to see where every penny's going and keep track of it for a month or two to try to help you to control where you might be spending a little too much.
Yeah. Yeah, and I noticed that in the report that you sent me, you said take advantage of email and text message alerts that notify you of your account balance.
Exactly. That's a fantastic way to keep track of not only your bank account, but also your credit cards. And you can move money around. You don't have to wait for that due date to make a payment on your card. You can use your app to transfer money at any time. So the apps give you alerts on sales, and they give you alerts on your balances on the credit card or your checking account.
All right, it's not New Year's, but we're going to make some resolutions for 2021. So what would you say about resolutions in terms of handling your debt, the weekly and monthly bills that we get?
Mm-hmm. Well, you talk about making a budget, and really part of that budget should be paying yourself, and paying yourself by saving some money. So a couple of ways you can do it that's automatic is through your retirement savings. And retirements or saving for education are both tax deferred. So that's another way to save yourself some money. So you're not paying taxes on that income because you're putting it into retirement or education savings for the future. or just make a plan to save a few dollars each month and watch that money grow over the course of the year. Next year, you'll have a little fund to pay for your holiday spending rather than maybe relying on the credit cards.
And one I like is teach your children about debt, about finances, and that's we don't think about that, but that's pretty important.
That's very important. The Credit Union Association and Foundation does a great job of supporting financial literacy in the schools. And if you can start when they're 10, 11, 12 years old and just get them familiar with budgeting, how credit works, what an interest rate is, and why interest is charged, that really goes a long way in helping them to establish good behaviors as they start to grow into, their own spending and getting their first job.
I'll tell you, one of the things that I think is also important and that is to develop a monthly and annual budget. This is something that I guess most folks don't do. My wife handles all that for me. I'll have to ask her if she does that. Go ahead, take it.
Well, really, I think it's something that you lose sight of very easily in the day-to-day. It's just keeping track of where your dollars are going and creating a budget that you can live within. Live within your means and create a budget that illustrates for you where you're spending your money and where your dollars are going. Your special coffee, your latte that you're getting might really be something you think twice about if you see that $5 or $6 that you could be saving each week.
Yeah, the other thing that you mentioned is to establish a relationship with a credit union or bank. So what does that get you?
Well, the individual who's not working with a financial institution like a credit union is really at risk of paying higher fees or not having products and services available to them that might help them to achieve their financial goals. So payday lenders and things of that nature really are high cost and tend to lead you down the path of not being able to achieve your own financial goals.
Yeah, and you've got to get a handle on your personal debt. I mean, you come on a lot, you folks, and we talk about debt and we talk about how to save money and not so much how to invest. We leave that to other folks. But this is not easy to do. This is very, very difficult to do for most people.
Right. It requires discipline, and you've got to create a good habit of saving. So anything you can do from budgeting to creating an automatic transfer to a savings account, creating savings accounts that are maybe not part of your main account so that it's not as visible to you, not as accessible, and you have to think twice about dipping into that.
Well, the other thing is you want to be prepared for retirement. I mean, if you don't have savings, it can lead to a lot of difficulties in retirement if you haven't handled your finances appropriately.
Right, and the trend in our country is that people are working longer than ever before, and sometimes that's a choice because they want to stay busy, but other times it's out of necessity because they do need to cover a lot of their expenses because they just don't have adequate retirement savings. Yeah,
well, I can certainly understand that, and look, we'll have you back at some point and we can go over this, and we need to find out if any of this is working as we move through particularly the pandemic and employment and whatever else is going to go on. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Terry.
All right, we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, stay well.